let's look at the map, Vito. Find out where we're gonna go. But one thing I do want to note about the last time we saw Space Station versus Evil Geniuses was look at that Bank. Bank was the map that these teams played against each other on week 7, and we all thought going into that, oh, Bank, EG loves Bank. This is one of their favorites.
Maps.
Yeah, it's one of their best maps. And Space Station 6-4'd Evil Geniuses on that map and blew everyone's minds, really. So obviously they're going to be vying to go to somewhere different. It looks like we'll find out in just a second which one it is.
It'll be Consulate because Coastline and Villa should be banned.
Yeah, I think
so
those are the ones. Yeah, those are probably the ones that will play. So it'll be Consulate. We're going to Consulate, and yeah, it makes sense that the first ban from EG there is Bank. That was purely defensive. Last time Space Station took them there, did not turn out great.
I mean, EG also lost on Bank to Cloud9 in DreamHack Montreal, which is a map that Cloud9 supposedly doesn't play. But I mean, I don't know if I necessarily believe that. But
this is also a map that while Evil Geniuses haven't played this season, they haven't played Consulate yet.
I know this is their first time playing it so far this season.
Space Station they have, and they lost it to SK 3-6. So this is a map that maybe is going to favor Evil Geniuses just a little bit.
Space Station did play this map. Well, I mean, if you could call it that, against SK as well at DreamHack Montreal, and they got shellacked 6-0 by SK. And in the rematch, which was played off stream, would you believe the first map that Space Station banned was Consulate?
Look at that.
Because you don't want to get 6-0'd again.
So I guess the
whoopsies.
The potential saving grace here for Space Station is that they've got a lot of practice on Consulate.
They do. EG played it too. I mean, you know, DreamHack Montreal 6-2 in favor of Cloud9. They played Mocket against it. They won 6-2 against Mocket, so that's a win and a loss. And then they lost it 6-2 to Rogue. So basically, no matter what, we know that the scoreline is probably going to be 6-2 against Evil Geniuses. Whether EG wins 6-2 or Space Station wins 6-2, we'll find out. But what do you think? Who's going to be winning this matchup? Well, we take into account what you have to think, given EG and Space Station's popularity. Boom, 75, 9, and 16%. Only 16% for Space Station is pretty low.
You surprised by that at all, Parker?
Actually, you know what? I am surprised that it is that low, as we feverishly write in our books here, just to
honestly
keep these numbers down for you.
I mean, I'm not terribly surprised, but I figured that it would be a little bit higher for Space Station because
I thought it would be. I thought it'd be pretty close. I mean, if you go back to NA, you know, 2 weeks ago, EG Rogue 50-42, SSG to Noble 55-33, SK to Obey 57-34. Those are very close margins between all these teams. You have to look up to C9 Mouse, where C9 coming off winning DreamHack Montreal, Mouse coming off losing, and not just losing DreamHack Montreal in the quarters, but to C9. 77-15%. Okay, that's a bit of a difference. Very similar to what we have here right now. But yeah, I figured SSG won the first matchup against EG this season. They're sitting in second place. They've beaten really good teams. Why is it 77-15%? Or 75-16% rather?
Especially,
I'm not sure.
Again, considering Space Station have been on the upswing, they're starting to be in their wave right now, doing very well. Again, beating EG, as you said, week 7. Week 8, they beat Noble, and it was a pretty dominant victory at that. 6-2 was absolutely devastating for Noble. It didn't really seem like Noble had any control in that match whatsoever. But all that said, Community Vote, of course, did not know what map we would be playing. I'm looking at this
also
map.
True. I'm
looking at this map right now, and I'm in my head screaming "Evil Geniuses, Evil Geniuses, Evil Geniuses," because if we look at the most recent history for Consulate and Comp, you know, coming off of the DreamHack Montreal, coming off of what we have for the record of Pro League so far this season, it just seems like Evil Geniuses are going to be much more comfortable on this map. Now, of course, it's important to remember that Space Station are good at practicing these things out and coming back and, you know, giving a better performance than the first time they played on it. The most notable one, again, that I'll reference is when they played against Noble, week 6, and they drew. And then the second time they played against Noble, week 8, they played on the same map, Coastline, and they managed to get that 6-2 victory that we just talked about. So there's a lot of potential for the resurgence here for Space Station on Consulate. They could do something spectacular and just know the map because of all the practice they've had recently, but still, conventional wisdom, EG.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the match between SK and SSG on Consulate, in which SK won 6-0 from Montreal, was broadcasted on stream. Probably very easy for Evil Geniuses to just go back onto your favorite twitch.tv/Rainbow6, which is probably where you're watching this, let's be honest.
Hello.
And you go onto it and you think, okay, well, let's watch this. How did SK beat them 6-0? What can we do? What can we extrapolate from that? But the other thing, too, with EG is, they lost Consulate to G2 in Paris Major quite handily. They lose it to Rogue. They lose it to C9. They pull out a win over Mocket, who are a team that are in transition on a roster. I mean, Rogue was too, but Rogue also looked very good in Montreal. So EG is coming into this, not just with not the greatest success on Consulate, but also down probably their best fragger in NVK. And I know Necrox is a great player, don't get me wrong. And I think him fitting in on this team is going to be good. But I think that there's something to be said, possibly for NVK being absent in the matchup today. And I think that that might impact how EG plays. We'll find out, of course, as the match is now loading in to Consulate. But I do gotta suspect that when you need a lot of fragging potential against Space Station because of how they play, losing NVK could possibly be a pretty big blow.
I will say this. You're absolutely right. And I think it's reinforced by the fact that we're now playing on Consulate of all maps. This is definitely a fragger map. This is a platform for your fraggers to truly perform. But I do know Amar personally, and I do know that Necrox is very, very comfortable on this map as an individual. So it's possible that could be something that will be a bit of a stopgap solution maybe for this match in particular.
Right. I'd imagine we're going to see a Clash ban here. Both teams do play Clash, but Young in particular running Clash. But no, Space Station's going to take out Pulse. I'd imagine EG will probably ban Mira in that case and leave Clash on the table. It really depends on the map, of course. Redeemer played Clash an awful lot on Bank when Space Station was in Montreal. Pulse is so often target banned against Evil Geniuses that a lot of times you can anticipate that and play around it. Final ban from EG is coming out, and they're going to ban Mira. So there you go. Clash is going to remain on the board. She will be very interesting here.
Clash definitely a powerful operator and again, on a map like Consulate of all. I mean, it's very exposed. Your defenders are often left without cover. Now you can provide cover whenever you please, though it's not an essential function, and it's something that I think Evil Geniuses are going to have to think about. They can also do things like bring castle. If you're going to be going to the top floor, usually you'd sing a castle, but here it's actually going to be on the basement, which is a little bit different, but there's still some useful places you can use that operator. Though it looks like they're going to 6-pick maybe into a Clash. No, in fact, into a Vigil. Either way, it's going to be a roam from Canadian. I think that's something we could have expected. Having his Pulse be banned means he's in a bit of a corner and he has to pick Vigil, but that's not exactly too much of a hindrance, I think.
No, he's a great Vigil main. One of the times that we saw them playing in DreamHack Montreal, he loved to play that Vigil inside of Visa and then all the way up in admin office upstairs as well, causing a lot of headaches. And in fact, he was one of the few bright spots for EG playing on this map because he was able to guarantee a pick or two almost every round when he was playing on Defiance as Vigil. Most interesting to me is how Necrox is going to fit into this this playstyle, because NVK and Necrox's roles don't really align all that well. But that's hard to say because if you remember, around the time of DreamHack Austin, EG started to tinker with their role swaps. You had BC roaming with Necrox. You had Young and Canadian playing on site. So very different style of play. And then they ended up going back to what they knew shortly after that.
See, that's the thing, though. I'm sure you've noticed most recently over the last, I'd say the second half, or the second quarter of the season, Evil Geniuses have been all over the place with their roles. Just, there's a lack of certainty in who's doing what. And I think it's been an ongoing conversation for this team for a long time. And it's worrisome. It's definitely worrisome. And seeing this substitute here is going to bring in more of those questions. I have to wonder how it's going to affect Evil Geniuses, whether it would be adversely or to their advantage, possibly. It is entirely possible here that we will have EG spring into new life because of where they find themselves. And we've seen that before when, for example, Canadian first rotated onto his fragger rolls again.
And now you've got this Vigilant Canadian playing upstairs. Unsurprising there. On a possible collision course with Brian, who's down below, just watching the hatch. I don't think Canadian's going to hear him squeeze by, but there's another member at the moment of Space Station watching that hatch as well. So they've got double duty there. It looks like it's Thinking Nade the Buck. So a Vigil possibly pops out. Space Station is in a position to possibly fight for a trade, but as I say, that Thinking Nade will fall off, head over towards Piano and rappel up onto the windows, which is where Geo was playing inside of that main floor bathroom.
You can see Space Station are acutely aware of all of these roamers, the ones in bathroom, the ones above, and over by the spiral stairs, but they're not able to immediately deal with them, and it's a slow churn to take care of them one at a time. Nades going into the bathroom are going to be caught by the Jaeger ADS, and that's just a bit of wasted utility and as well as wasted time. You can see we're coming down to the last minute here for Space Station, and they have yet to establish full control over the top floor or the middle floor. They're still feeling very pressured by these roamers.
And you know that Canadian still has not been spotted, as you said, after both Brian and Thinking Nade had to deal with the two ADSs inside of the main floor bathroom. The second grenade from Thinking Nade went nowhere because you saw the mute dip off. Now, as Canadian manages to get inside a Piano, he'll take out Thinking Nade, but Brian is there to get his teammates back, so they'll trade a Vigil for a buck. But the thing is that Thinking Nade will not be able to do any more environmental damage to the floor in Piano. That's huge. Because there's no Thermite on the board, we've got Space Station playing the Thermite. Now, Chala a lot of times would play a possible Thermite, but there's a Hibana now here, which is what Redeemer's going to do. He'll open up two holes in the garage. Brian trying to lock down a kill on the BC, but cannot get it. He'll drop the hatch and just sprint in with the phone calls. Brian will be rewarded with the second kill before Geo is there to tie that off amidst the crowd of smoke. Cloud of smoke is Redeemer getting the plant down. The Glaza Rampy will walk right in. Diffuser goes down, and EG has lost control of the site. And as we see the typical defense on Consulate Garage, every member of SSG has safely hidden behind those, I guess you'd call them porcelain banisters. Double kill for Rampy will end this round, and Space Station will take their very first attack.
The first round of the map as a whole, that was a pretty well-coordinated attack from Space Station. You saw that Evil Geniuses was was very absorbed in their roamers and trying to deny vertical pressure, but all the while, Space Station simply pushed their way in through garage, laid down some smoke, and planted the diffuser, and there did not seem to be a lot of counterplay being employed by Evil Geniuses. A lot of that has to do with Brian's adept disruption as he dropped through the bathroom hatch. That was a really well-coordinated push from Space Station, and props to them for calling Brian's drop. Usually you wouldn't see anybody drop from that hatch. It's pretty dangerous, but Brian managed to make it work. Of course, that was all thanks to his initial spray onto the player defending from the back of White Van, also due to Evil Genius's very light touch on the garage itself. While they were defending it from afar, and they thus did not have control over the hatch, nor did they have control over the actual garage panel.
I mean, a big part of that was once Canadian fell, as you said, there was nobody guarding that hatch, and I can't believe they were able to get the kill onto the smoke as well. The smoke would have been their best bet to stop the plant. And then once the smoke from the attackers went down, coverage from Rampy as Glaz became even more valuable because there was lack of a hard counter outside of maybe a C4 tossed from Geo onto the mute, but that was all available for EG outside of the smoke being in play. So ultimately, Space Station's investment on that main floor, even though you mentioned that it took them quite a while to get to that level, ended up paying off, and it paid off in just the right amount of time. EG's going to change gears and go from the garage all the way upstairs to that second floor console office.
Now, one thing I got to say about the Space Station attack there before we move on was the way they were playing their anti-roam was very dangerous and usually does not work out. But they somehow managed to make it work, and that's the most important thing. If it works, it ain't stupid. Now, the attack onto the top floor is going to, of course, be very different. As Necrox starts things off with a kill onto Chala, it's already going to be a good start for EG. That's the Okabigon with no phone calls used, and it looks like a bit of a a questionable push in through the Yellow Stairs doorway, possibly not enough drone coverage, and a free kill for Evil Geniuses.
I mean, we saw this in Montreal as well, where a call was made, and then 2 seconds later, when you try to capitalize on it, the call is already too late, right? I mean, it could have been a possible drone onto Yellow Stairs, but Chala reacting after the call is made, and Necrox just getting very lucky, rotating from an area where the drone possibly hadn't spotted. And I know that drone coverage and the ability to communicate these things to one another is very, very important. Brian now down below inside a piano along with Thinking Nade will use the 2 breaching rounds from Ash just to open up possible lines of sight and put pressure onto those defenders above. And there you go. Brian now doing some caliber-based destruction. Still got Thinking Nade down there as well, though Thinking Nade has sustained a tiny bit of damage inside a piano. Watching to see if anybody from EG is going to push those Yellow Stairs. We are getting scarily close to the final minute of this round, and SSG really hasn't accomplished all that much, at least so far, especially after losing the pair of smokes in Dokkaebi.
Now, their Ash charge placement has been surgical, though, and it does tell you that they put a lot of practice into their Consulate recently, and they know exactly what they want to do as their execution. I think the patience is just the same thing we saw from the last round. They want to get it right on the actual execute. Castle barricade broken by the defenders, I believe, to try and deny the defuse plant, and it will do just that. Redeemer goes down, and Young gets a double onto Thinking Nade. Brian and Rampy now the last 2 attackers, and Brian's going to go down as soon as he gets to do fight with Necrox. It's all Rampy in a 1 versus 5. He will take out Necrox as he gets run out on, but he's now got to find 4 more angry defenders, and he's only got 30 seconds to do it. Pushing up the Yellow Stairs, he sees he's exposed to the B-bomb site, very likely to be finished off by that Geo inside of CEO, and it will be just him. Space Station go down. Evil Geniuses will take their first round.
I mean, you also had pressure from the Yellow Stairs. I don't think there was any way whatsoever that the Glass was getting out of that Rampy in an almost unwinnable position.
Agreed.
Especially, as you saw, they the way that EG played that was very, very smart. They castled off the double door in console office, leading to the, I guess you call it just the main desk, sitting in what could be reception by Yellow Stairs.
I do big desk and long desk.
Big desk and long desk. So it would be big desk in that case, or the reception area at the top of Yellow Stairs. The moment that they thought the push was going to come in, there was an evil eye giving them information, they broke the castle barricade and tossed in a smoke. That was what the Hibana hit when the Hibana repelled in. And Young, who looked to be playing on Yellow Stairs, had that entire side of the cubby wall blown open. And when you're Hibana coming in through that angle, you got the connector wall opened up, you've got the double doors opened up, exposing you to the end of long desk as well as bathroom, and then you've got all of Yellow Stairs opened up. It's just too many angles for, you know, the Hibana to possibly cover, and Rampy on repel couldn't do it fast enough as Glass. Even though he is credited with the most kills on his team right now, you know, he managed to get that impactless frag on Necrox, as Necrox did spring out of the door as the castle, trying to get Glass still on repel. So overall, I really like the way that EG played that in particular. It was a good bounce back and could have put themselves in a really advantageous position had they had to go for a retake as well, because they still had all those walls opened up, so they could have easily caught Space Station Gaming as they rotated from a, you know, plant to post-plant situation.
I also really appreciate Evil Genius's dynamic nature there. They did not commit themselves fully to any one type of defense. You know, usually you'll see 2 particular strategies on the top floor. Whether you're going to come from admin office as an attacker or you're going to come from the CEO, those are usually what will be in play. There isn't a whole lot of deviation there. Sometimes you'll see the A balcony pressure without an admin take. That does happen, though it's rare. Either way, Evil Geniuses were set up to handle pretty much anything. And as soon as the push started coming from Space Station towards the B side, they rotated accordingly. They were also on top of using their own utility to their advantage, like those castle barricades, and able to pre-fire through smokes to deny diffuse plants. That means they had an acute awareness of what the Space Station were trying to plant in. Now, that said, the attack from Space Station was well coordinated. The only critique I could give them is that they took too much time to establish the control that they wanted to, and they needed to be more efficient with their drones, which is what we're seeing yet again for the 3rd round in a row. A minute being spent droning out the middle floor, and no immediate results. As Brian gets eliminated, it's in fact quite the opposite of what Space Station wants. And now they're going to have a lot more trouble clearing that middle floor. And
not as fast of an opening death for Space Station this time, which I guess they can take some solace in, as well as the fact that it's an Ash, probably your least impactful operator in regards to, you know, absolute utility. Though, I mean, the Ash could be great for being able to sprint through those fast corridors. Canadian actually looked like he could possibly get a kill through the window in console office here, as he'll try to tie up Space Station for a brief bit of time. You've got both Redeemer as well as Rampy downstairs at that garage office wall. Thinking Nade as well as Chala will have to be the two to find him. Chala looks to possibly try and take this engagement on a Canadians. Thinking Nade who will find Necrox, though. Necrox playing that more of a frag-heavy role, at least so far on defense, to try and maybe account for the fact that there's no NVK. Chala's just situated by the bathroom door, and he'll hear the phone calls go off, but it's Geo playing on the other side, and of course, Geo as Echo doesn't have a phone, so Geo's going to sit here, and I don't know if Chala's aware of the fact of which operator is playing, but I think he's got somewhat of an understanding that there's somebody in there that he possibly needs to try to take a fight from. Meanwhile, he'll lose his teammate. A Thinking Nade is Canadian on the roam will pick off the Buck, leaving Space Station in a deficit as we hit the final 45 seconds.
Canadian doing some good work as the roamer this time around. Here comes the actual smoke, but Canadian from above, jumping out a CEO window, will take out Redeemer. Chala able to shut him down before he can do any more damage, but the bleeding might be too much at this point. As Young takes out Chala, Rampy now the final attacker, pushing with so little time, and it's going to be an easy crossfire between BC and the Maestro. Round over, Evil Geniuses take it, and Space Station just didn't have enough external control, and they did not do enough to clear out those roamers.
Once again, Space Station just getting bitten by their entry, and I mean, when you lose somebody early on in 2 rounds, you're going to have to find yourself fighting off of, you know, your back heel or getting caught off guard, so to speak, especially when the first time around it was Chala in round number 2, losing 2 sets of smokes for Dokkaebi as well as the 2 sets of logic bombs. Well, that becomes a bit of a problem. They were lucky, though, that it was Brian, who now will switch off of Ashe, as he played Ashe 3 rounds in a row, and go with Zofia unless it's 6th picked. But ultimately, Brian looked a lot more comfortable playing on Zofia. I don't know if the strategy that SSG has set up is for that 3-speed operator to try and take up as much ground as possible. It could be Chala now possibly moving to opening frag, as he'll pick the IQ, who could maybe try and take the role of Brian's Ashe. But of course, the gadget of IQ becoming a lot more viable.
Yeah, IQ is a great operator on this map. Even though you have the Pulse being banned out, Valkyrie still a potential factor here. Now, of course, she's not being picked here, but Young is going to stay on that Echo. Yokai drones can do a lot of damage, especially on this middle floor defense. We haven't seen the new site come out yet from Evil Geniuses. Seems like they're going to want to hold off on defending this Tellers and server site, but we have had some other teams that have been pushing it pretty hard. Most notably, I believe G2 were one of the advocates for the new site. I think Fabian talked about it in an interview, if I'm not mistaken. But it's not universally an embraced site just yet, and as such, Evil Geniuses, having one top and bottom, will go to the typical third, which is that middle.
Yeah, and I mean, G2 is going to be one of the few teams that are innovative enough and talented enough to be able to use these sites for the first time and really show people off, and really show off to people what they're capable of doing. Especially as the consensus around that site seemed to be that it's not the greatest, it's probably not as good as the other 3, but with Fabian coming out and speaking so positively of it, I'm sure there are teams that were already in the midst of trying to figure out how to defend it properly. Yeah, I think his words of encouragement will probably spur on a couple teams that might be a bit more bullish on the possibility of defending successfully. Now, most of SSG's utility at the moment is on the eastern wall, as once again they'll be fighting admin lobby. The main floor is the site for EG, as they've successfully won both console office on the 2nd floor and now the garage.
It's a slow take here again, this time into the admin office, and you can see Geo waiting firm. Jaeger has been changing hands quite a lot on Evil Geniuses. It almost seems like they're still trying to figure out roles in the middle of the match. Now, it's been working out for them all right. They have managed to take out a lead and then that 2-1 scoreline, but it's still something to consider. And as Thinking Nade lands his nade onto Geo, who is the Jaeger, it's going to be a nice clear of the admin office for Space Station.
Yeah, that was a beautiful throw, as there was just nothing there to possibly protect Geo, who'd been droned out so many times. I don't understand why he tried to contest that fight. I mean, you could have possibly tried to escape into Copier, but I mean, you probably would have been picked off, so I think that's what Geo assessed and realized it wasn't worthwhile.
The confusing thing for me, and I know we always like to joke, oh, the irony, haha, it was a Jaeger, but why not have one of the ADSs in that room if you're going to try and be so stalwart there? why not give yourself that extra layer of defense? Because that was not done, Space Station now have the avenue they really have been vying for, which is that long desk, which they can now completely dictate using Rampy's glass.
And remember, that glass can't shoot through the castle barricade that's on the double door of console office anymore. I mean, you can shoot through it and see through it, but you can't shoot it down. So Space Station, if they want to take care of that castle barricade, will have to commit a little bit more of their own resources to it. They've got a pretty decent pace to get an execute onto the main floor. They've got about 35 seconds. They've got breathing room because of Geo being eliminated earlier on. But as you can see, SSG will now rotate. This is the late round rotation towards main lobby, and a second set of smokes will go down, but no, the ADS will burn Rampy's smoke, and this could be a mortal blow. A Toxic Babe will go down into the main doorway and choke out both Thinking Nate as well as Rampy. Chala will try to persevere, but Canadian jumps right out! A double kill for the Doc as Thinking Nate and Rampy are gone. Necrox is there to add to it. Chala still trying to go for a plant, but he is smokeless as he tries to get into the main site, but he might be on camera. The Hibana tries to rotate as she sees one member of EG on yellow stairs, and there you go. Chala will fall off the plant. Redeemer, rather, will fall off. No, it's Chala holding onto the diffuser this time as Redeemer was trying to rotate, and that will be Chala falling off the plant. 3 in a row for EG.
A couple things to talk about there for Space Station. First and foremost, very slow take onto the admin office. They did manage to take out Geo, but it took way too much time. And the absolute ending blow there for SSG was the fact that they didn't commit to clearing the top floor. They spent a minute and a half clearing just that one room to get themselves the beachhead. And when they started their push towards the rest of the top floor by CEO, bathroom, there were 2 defenders up there from Evil Geniuses holding firm. But they just let them linger. You have to commit fully. At this point, you've expended so much, in for a mile. You have to go and clear out the rest of the top floor before you start your push onto the main floor so that you have that man advantage. And if you don't commit to it, then you're just putting yourself in a position where you've lost all the ground you gained, and now what do you have? 30 seconds left on the clock, and a difficult push in through the main lobby door. So no utility expended through baiting at all, and a lot of wasted time on the top floor, a lack of commitment to clearing out the roamers and giving yourself an advantage. I mean, even if you lose those fights on the top floor, then it's a different way of losing the round than what you were going to end up doing coming in through the main door.
Yeah, just once again, an issue with SSG's ability to communicate with one another, and EG has been playing a very fluid defense. The fact that they keep changing people around. You mentioned you mentioned the fact that Jaeger has been changing hands. Now it's going to be Young back on Jaeger. Last time around we saw on this floor, it was indeed Young who was playing here. So let's and once again, he's going to be inside an open area in the exact same spot that Geo was killed from before.
But this time, I want to say that Geo must have had an ADS. Maybe it just wasn't placed properly, but at least this time we know that Young does have an ADS.
Yeah.
And he'll be protected from those grenades. Now, Space Station have been pretty good at the vertical pressure from below. Last time they went out of the top floor, there was a concerted effort from Space Station to take the middle floor and surgically open up spots like Connector, for example. You can see Thinking Nate already opening up the back of B to try and apply pressure from below. But all the while, Chala, yet again, we've seen this before and we'll see it again. He just walked in yellow stairs and he died to Necrox, the same person who got him last time, in the pretty much the same position. So a very confusing mistake to happen twice in a row from Chala. Well, not twice in a row per se, but twice so far on this map. Either way, Evil Genius is now very comfortable on this top floor hold, and it doesn't seem like they're really wavering under the pressure that Space Station are applying from below.
No, and I mean, once again, you've got Brian going off of the more utility-based operator of Zofia onto Ash, possibly for killing potential, which honestly, Space Station Gaming right now is in desperate need of possible killing potential, as they haven't been able to really find a lot of success, and they haven't been able to match how dynamic these role swaps have been for Evil Geniuses. As we hit the final minute of round number 5, and we'll switch sides after this. EG looking to open up this lead even larger and put them into a 4-1 advantage heading into their set of attacks. And what is going on right now with SSG? They're still taking so much time. They've now finally rappelled up the window here, but they haven't been able to go for an execute. It'll finally come out as both smoke darts will come in. Some pressure onto the yellow stairs. That's Young not going to win this fight. Thinking Nade goes down. Necrox will trade it off. Plant from Redeemer successful, but EG will kill everybody but Rampy, who once again on this console office window, and he's going to have to find a 1v4, which he's not been able to do. More importantly, he's going to need to grab that diffuser, but Geo's going to shut it all down. The anchor play of EG has been so formidable, both from Geo as well as BC, and then Canadian and Young going in when need be, and that's 4-1 in favor of EG. They only need one more round to pick up 1 point and secure a tie.
That was a pretty one-sided round, and in fact, since the first round of this match, we've seen it be just that, one-sided. Spacestation spend way too much time just skirting around Evil Geniuses, and it seems like EG has figured this out. They're just playing in it with the mindset of, hey, we could just wait, and we win the round. It's great, let's do it. Even when the Evil Geniuses had the roamers, the first round, you saw Canadian got a little bit too aggressive with his top floor roam, got executed, and because of that, because SSG were able to get that one little, just that one little kill, it gave them enough of an edge where they could turn that into a cascade that allowed them to massacre the anchors on site and allow for a plant into the main garage. So Space Station have been looking for that one kill ever since in the last 4 rounds, and they just haven't been able to really get it, and if they do get it, it's just not enough because Evil Geniuses have caught onto the game.
Yeah, this is a big step back from a team that has been looking very good, and I think that's the biggest issue here is, I don't know if it's EG directly being able to counter them or not, but not only have EG's roamers been able to wear down the clock as we'd anticipate and probably get an early pick. Necrox got, what, 2 or 3 opening round kills. I think Canadian got 1 as well. But it's more that Space Station have really struggled to transition towards an attack on the site. And that's been the bigger issue for Space Station, is that they have no answer whatsoever for the anchor play. And you've seen them. They've been eating them alive with Maestro as well as Smoke, being able to get so many kills, especially Geo in particular, who's having probably his best game so far since joining that EG roster.
All that said, though, we will be moving on to the second half. So now it is on Evil Geniuses to give us some solid attack rounds. Looks like we may have had a possible issue there. See what's going to happen in due time. But for now, the round seems to be playing out. Space Station going to choose to defend the bottom floor for their very first round.
Unlikely that there'll be a rehost as we're more than 15 seconds into action. A big blow, though, to Evil Geniuses as Young was likely carrying the role of Hard Breacher as EG doesn't have one on the board. Didn't get to see, though, before Young did drop, but likely wearing the mantle of Hibana. I mean, it is possible to take this site. You can possibly attack through the staff area without needing any hard breaching capabilities, but you certainly want the hard breaching available in case you need to tackle the garage, which makes it very difficult for the attackers to do anything if you can't open any of it up.
Canadian aware of the Jaeger on Spiral. This could be a potential free kill if they pinch him properly. You could see the Ash was moving into Visa to cut off his retreat to the top floor, and now Canadian's got the retreat from the bottom floor also cut off. So Necrox and Canadian, possibly some amazing duo work here to get the free kill. But Jaeger also has supporters. You can see the roamer from Yellow Stairs potentially trying to support this thinking nade, but it's not going to happen. Necrox just swoops in, and there you go. A nice pinch from Evil Geniuses will even the man count after the unfortunate disconnection.
Necrox has fully embraced NVK's roles as well, playing on this Ash, as was mentioned, and now Space Station's anchors will be droned out, and you can see if there's going to be some opening here. Redeemer is next man on deck as Necrox looking quite hot for this match in particular, being able to open up one of the walls to try and get towards the Maestro. He'll be tased by the Evil Eye Cam, losing just a tiny bit of his HP. I don't know if Canadian's position is known, but Redeemer playing very tight to the wall with the Alda could easily secure a kill or two. We've been able to see that gun gun tear through its opposition. But Redeemer's position is going to be given away. Chala's there to jump into the fray at the MP7 at long range, able to fell Canadian, putting us back at a 4v4. But we're very close to the execute. Necrox will pick up the second kill as Brian trades that one off. BC trying to find an engagement inside a staff area, but he'll be choked away and he'll have to fall off the beat.
Necrox has all the kills right now for Evil Geniuses. BC being on such low HP means that it might all be on Necrox, but no, BC's able to get control of security. A very important kill onto Redeemer. And now with only 16 seconds left, it's a 2 versus 2. BC gets a second one. It's all up to Chala. The diffuser is being planted and Chala rather, does have a C4, so a potential denial, but he will get Necrox the actual cover, leaving BC in the 1 versus 1. He's going to have to 3K to win it, but oh no, the wrong push, and Chala will take down BC. Space Station take their first round in a good long while after 4 in a row for Evil Geniuses.
Using the very lethal bandit battery there as it just reloads and then tears through people. Never ever doubt the power of that shock wire to be able to take its opponents down. Obviously trying to offer them a present to supercharge their attack, so to speak.
It might have lost a lot of relevance in the most recent update with the addition of Maverick, but it sure can dispatch enemies.
A lot of fragging potential on that battery right there.
Yeah, right.
Excellent job. Like I said, it's used to just, shock and awe, I believe, is the strategy that Space Station Gaming was looking for there. We'll have a brief rehost just as Young tries to find his way back into the lobby. But that came so close, despite the fact that Evil Geniuses were playing the entire round, not just down a player, but down their only hard breacher, and EG still nearly manages to pull it out, but Space Station is gifted a round off of a miraculous two-play, or a two-piece there on the double play by Chala in order to get the kill and then finish off BC.
It definitely looked like BC and Necrox were going to be able to win it. They had 2 kills apiece, and they were in the perfect position to lock it out. The C4 was really the thing that turned it around for Chala, but also the push from BC, choosing to go wide into garage. Just not the right call in that situation. He really needed to isolate his angles and start, trying to play for the diffuser. Either way, great clutch from Chala. You can't take anything from him.
Even having Necrox play at the double doors by Pipes in particular, we saw him in that position originally before he rotated into the small office and then joined BC to possibly cover. I think they were fearing that Chala was going to push through the rotate hole that was over by White Van. But I mean, even if you're at the double doors, you can still cover that rotate. You can cover it probably even better because Chala's going to have to rotate to his side, so he's not going to be able to get that kill on you the same way he is if he's coming at you head on through the rotate hole. So that small misstep is really the difference maker, and then a great clutch from Chala to get the kill. And that's how close EG came to putting it on the match point.
If you're at that double door area, if you're coming off of security going towards Pipes, if you can isolate the close angles, so Pipes and Yellow Pillar and, further towards Yellow Stairs and Garage, if you can isolate those close angles, you're not going to be pressured from them. It's a quick peek, and then you could get back one melee hole in that little extension from the hallway, and you have an easy line of sight through the kitchen door onto the rotation hole. You don't have to worry about anything. You're not going to lose that fight. But it's all said and done now, and we're just waiting for everybody to get back in before we get started right back into the match. So the score, of course, will still be, it'll be 4-2. Favor Evil Geniuses. And I want to touch on what you were talking about just a little bit ago. That was almost an EG win despite no hard breacher on a basement defensive Consulate. That's about as difficult as it gets. And it came very close. So Space Station have not been looking great so far. And after that, being their, of course, their very first defense, they're going to have to step it up a little bit as they move on to their second ever defense. And we'll show you that in just a little bit as we start getting back into Consulate.
Yeah, so Garage is going to be locked for Space Station. They're probably going to go upstairs to Console. That's my assumption, is they'll probably start on that second floor. They've got lobby open for them. I mean, it's a wash as to which one they'll take. Right now, it does look like they're going to start on lobby, and they'll go towards that main floor and try to play to the strengths that the main lobby provides over that second story.
Yeah. Main lobby is definitely a versatile bomb site. You can defend it from upstairs, and most teams do. You can also technically defend it from the basement, although it's a little bit more dangerous, not as much direct influence over the outcome of the round, though it can be safer depending on who you're playing against. Some teams are just more proficient at clearing that top floor, and you really don't want to deal with it. But that's up to the team who's actually defending, and it's up to the VOD review that they do on their opponent. Evil Geniuses have brought a very heavy smoke, shock and awe strategy here. As you can see, the Ying with 2 sets of smokes from the Capitao and the Glaz means that it's going to be hard for Spacestation to fight back directly. Luckily for them, they have 3 indirect denial operators on their lineup in the Smoke, Echo, and Maestro. So it's going to be a battle of utility in all likelihood after Evil Geniuses finish trying to take control of that top floor. Usually the strategy will be take control of top floor up to Projector. Once you have isolated Projector, then you can move your way to the main lobby and go for a forced plant into the front door. Now, of course, still going to be dangerous with all the utility, the anti-plant that Spacestation has at their fingertips. So we might see a different strategy employed by Evil Geniuses if they can determine this and choose to adjust.
It actually doesn't look like Young might have been playing the hard breacher whatsoever last time around.
Really?
This will be EG foregoing a hard breacher yet again. Take a look at their lineup. It's a very colorful assembly of operators, but none that have the capabilities of taking out a reinforcement. Now, we've said many times that usually EG runs without a Thermite player, so the ban from Thermite that came out from EG, really not that much of a surprise, but you'd figure you'd probably put in a Hibana at least, or maybe even a Maverick. Usually Hibana's role was played a lot by either BC or Necrox, depending on the way that they were switching things up, but you also had Young possibly playing that hard breach role, once again going to the flexibility of EG. A lot more of a similar lineup from Spacestation here is they're going to go very anchor heavy. In fact, running with 5 operators that all are capable of locking down a site, which on lobby can work out for you, though you'll have your anchors in different positions. As you said, usually you'll substitute roamers for anchors to patrol certain key areas above, especially inside of the projector area, which is where the Smoke of Brian appears to be seated.
Necrox just trying to clear out some barbed wire and start establishing a nice push through long desk. It's a very dangerous one when you've got so many defenders on the top floor. They're just starting to inch their way in here. And something we saw from Spacestation is now being reflected in Evil Geniuses as they have rotated to attack, and that's a decidedly slow push. In fact, Necrox seems to be almost alone. He's only got Canadian to support him on this top floor push. The rest of the efforts from Evil Geniuses, in fact, Necrox is going to rotate. The rest of the efforts from Evil Geniuses are focused on the front door, but they've done similar to Spacestation in that they haven't taken out anybody. So now they're in the bad spot.
Canadian could possibly blow this wide open with a well-placed Candela or 2 to blind Brian and push in, because Brian's going to be the most important part here. A whole bunch of smokes go down. Canadian will use the Candela, and he sees Brian just completely blind as Brian stumbles, trying to get back in. Canadian will look for his second kill, but miss it in a straight shootout to Thinking Nade. And EG gets Diffuser down, and look at that. So, Spacestation Gaming completely bamboozled, and they need to get towards this Diffuser, as it'll hit the quarter mark, leaving 3/4 of the time left. It is a 7-second diffuse time for Spacestation, so they've got quite a bit of time to be vulnerable. Redeemer and Rampy working towards that front door, trying to see if they can get across here. Redeemer will expose himself for just a second as Young Army crawls his way towards one of the pillars to get a kill. Rampy will run out, a double kill from Thinking Nade. He'll have every kill so far, but 2 from Young, and then Chala gets in. Chala going for the defuse will be obliterated by Geo. The Glaz at such long range. Just have to wait out Thinking Nade, and if we can see him pop up, there you go. Even if Thinking Nade gets that kill, we are past the point of no return. He will not, as Geo gets the final 2 kills for Evil Geniuses, and EG move to match point.
Okay, so a little bit confusing there for Spacestation. Well-coordinated attack from Evil Geniuses. I love the distraction of the Ying upstairs, allowing for the push into the front door. Disabling the smoke was a huge play for Canadian. Props to him for that. But how do the other 2 redundancies not kick in? And of course, I'm referring to Maestro and Echo. How is a plant happening while one attacker pushes the top floor, and very shallowly pushes the top floor at that, just into Projector, and then later into long desk. That's not a lot of pressure being applied from just one person. Yes, again, the Candelas were very much a loud distraction, but they were just that, a distraction. And I can't imagine that both Maestro and Echo were off of their cameras by the front door. There had to have been some way to deny that plant, but it didn't come into play for Space Station. So a little confusing. Admittedly well played by Evil Geniuses, but I think a pretty grave mistake from Space Station. And now, of course, they are on match point. 5-2 Evil Geniuses in a decided lead.
And you don't want to ever be in a position where you start to look towards your teammates and point fingers, but I think it is worth mentioning, even though kills are not the be-all and end-all, Redeemer has yet to find a kill this entire matchup. And as somebody who has been so good, especially, he got the ace against Noble just last week, it's not great to have Redeemer be completely cold. You know, as their coach, Lycan, or Dally as we like to call him, noted in the interview, sometimes when a player gets hot, there's really not that much you can do about it. Redeemer dropped double digits and ended up getting that ace. I think he finished with 14 kills or something like that in the matchup on against Noble on Coastline. Finding himself the team captain without a kill here is going to sting this team, especially when right now one of their biggest problems is pure fragging potential. They've only gotten close to wiping everybody out a couple times outside of the 2 rounds that they have. So that is a dangerous spot for SSG to be in and just be deprived of that firepower, which I thought EG was going to be in without Necrox, or without an NVK, and with Necrox. Anywho, we're in the final round here, match point round number 8, and once again, for every single round that EG has run on defense, they have done so without a hard breacher. They have seemed to make it work almost 2 times, but once for sure.
Yeah. I mean, of course, they know that they're not going to have to deal with the bottom floor. You know, going on to the other sites, it's not a huge deal not to have a hard breacher, but it can be helpful in certain instances. BC on the IQ has been doing a lot of work for his team just into detecting those electronics and then obviously later destroying them. And having the info is always nice, knowing what you need to deal with. The Yokai drone is in a good position here from Redeemer to avoid being destroyed immediately. And the information from Evil Geniuses is going to be slowly coming out as they drone into CEO. This is a very shallow attack, as it always is when you're attacking onto the B bomb site. You have to kind of get a little bit lucky with your utility usage, and that's an interesting smoke, which will be countered by a gas canister from Brian.
I mean, EG does have 4 smokes available to them.
Yes, that's true.
And Young can possibly use one. You know, Geo can possibly use one. Geo does take some damage from that smoke on Repel. Here you go. Look at that. Young just watching the window. Maybe they're trying to deliberately bait it out, knowing that they have enough utility available.
Well, look, they're going to get some free bait there from the second gas canister. That's a really bad use of utility. And as that happens, Necrox downstairs is going to take out Thinking Nade. The roaming Ella, and a second for Necrox. He's the one fragging today. Chala will take down Canadian, though, as the push comes into CEO. So it's not all over yet for Space Station.
And there you could also see Necrox give the call that one was playing inside of Connector. That was the smoke of Brian as the SMG-11 failed to hit Necrox. Young with the para takes out Chala. Redeemer will find his very first kill. Uses them bearing 9 playing on yellow stairs. Looking to see if he can go for the run out. He'll see the Capital, but get down. Young doing a great job of zoning SSG out, and Brian will have the misfortune of being the final member of SSG left, with Evil Geniuses on match point, poised to finish everything off. No gas grenades for Brian, and they're just going to wait for the sound cue. He will jump out the window, and I think at that point, understanding with the inevitable, EG will take this matchup. What did we say? We said it was going to be 6-2. Well, it's 6-2, and EG's going to walk away with the victory, and they're going to take sole possession of first place in NA, at least until we see what happens in our next matchup between Mouse and SK. And most importantly, Michael, EG now draws even with SSG as both teams winning their respective matches this season.